And welcome to another edition of Two Steps Ahead Podcast. Two Steps Ahead Podcast encouraging you, my friend, to take your passion, make it happen, let yourself be great. I'm Son Edom. Coming up on the show, we are going to continue our conversation about what it takes to be a successful person. If you were with us last time, we talked about how a successful person thinks, the thought process, the thought life of a successful person, thinking like a champion. And you can go back to episode 207 on our website, radiowarp.com, if you want to hear about it and hear more about it. But basically, in a quick nutshell, successful people think the right kind of thoughts because thoughts leads to action. We want successful, positive thoughts leading to successful, positive actions. Successful people think the right kind of thoughts. You know, mindset is everything, as they say. You got to think big, that wow factor. You think pure thoughts. You don't dwell on what others have done to you because that takes you down a negative road. Sure, you don't forget it. You learn from it. Maybe you have to address issues, but you don't dwell on it because dwelling on it leads to the negative thoughts that can keep us from success. Successful people will think unique thoughts, maybe thinking outside the box, and then never holding a grudge because that holding a grudge leads us to thoughts of vengeance, thoughts of hatred, thoughts of anger, and that's all negative thoughts. We have to get rid of that. Forgiveness is key. So as we continue on with that thinking like a champion, what do successful people do? Well, first it's your thoughts, then it's your speech, your language, how you communicate. Because after appearance obviously is the first impression that people are going to have of you, of me. The second thing is going to be our communication, how we speak, how we talk. People will judge us by the words we use. Is it slang? Is it profanity? Incorrect grammar? Proper language? Doesn't have to be sophisticated proper language, but just proper language is impressive. And people are impressed by that when you can communicate properly through the verbal language. And so when you're out there, swearing and using a bunch of slang and a bunch of profanity, people aren't going to have the same regard as they would if you are speaking professionally and in a professional manner. One of the things that you learn in the radio business, because profanity, at least at one time, was an FCC violation, and you could get fined for it, was profanity on the air. And so it was trained, well, maybe not trained, but ingrained that if you're going to swear, you got to make sure that it's separate from your work life and your home life. And so basically the advice I was told that if you're working in radio, just get in the habit of not swearing at all. Because if you don't swear outside of work, it's not going to go over the mic. You're not going to get fined and so on. Nowadays, things are different, so a lot of people don't heed that. But again, words can be a way to kind of continue that first impression. The way we speak and articulation, or how we pronounce words, how we enunciate our words, how we convey those words can demonstrate to others our intelligence, our incompetence, our business savvy. Do we know what we are talking about? Or is it just a bunch of word salad to try to fill some time? Because we really don't know what we're talking about, but we want others to think we do, and we're trying to fool them. The way we speak is a good indicator to how someone's going to receive us just beyond impressions. How many times have you met somebody and it's like, oh, it's a first impression? And yeah, that's a good first impression, but that's where it stops. How are you going to be received and kind of maybe pushed into that person a little bit more, that group or that business or that friend circle, whatever it is? How do you get into that? And you do that by communicating. Words we use and the presentation or the manner in which we deliver those words can be important. And that's why it's important. Again, we're talking about using the right kind of language, how we present words. We might have the knowledge, but if we can't speak it, how are we going to be able to convey those words? I mean, you think of going back to Bible times, God wanted to use Moses, but Moses said he couldn't speak, so Aaron came along. Or maybe perhaps if you saw the movie My Cousin Vinny, you had an attorney there that was like stuttering and stammering and kind of spitting, was a lawyer. Now it's a movie, granted, but again, an example, a lawyer probably had all the knowledge of the law, but again, his presentation struggled. Eventually, got fired. But it is. That's a movie version of it, but it is. It's important. You're going to walk into a doctor's office, a dentist's office, a lawyer, a bank. The language we use, the language they use is going to be key as to whether or not you have confidence in that person to get the job done. So if you're walking into a bank and you're trying to get a business loan, are you going to be able to articulate what you want to use the money for? Are you going to be able to convince them that you're a good bet and that they should give you the money? Are you going to use slang? Are you going to use profanity? Or are you going to take on a professional tone? And think about that. Are you going to have a professional tone to be able to get the money? Or are you going to go in there with slang and improper grammar and try to get the money? Chances are you're not going to get the money. What about a job interview? You're going in for a job. And the first thing they're going to notice, obviously, is your appearance, and then how you communicate in answering questions, how you communicate in explaining how you can do the job, what your qualifications are. Again, you're trying to sell yourself to someone so that they would invest their time, effort, and energy, including pay, into you to get a job done. Well, what about going on a date? Social circles. You want to impress somebody. You like somebody, so you take them out. How's those communication skills? Are you coming across as a gentleman or someone that's more perverted? I guess depending on the date, one might be better than the other. But basically, it comes down to this. There's a time and a place for a lot of different things. But if you learn to speak better, and you do this by increasing your vocabulary, and you can do this by reading more, if you speak better, then chances of success increase. The chances of being received are increased. The chances of getting things what you want increase. And that includes avoiding the text message language that we learn. You know, we learn to speak in emoji on the text messaging, or we learn to speak in slang or maybe chopped sentences. But what about just having a complete sentence? What about talking with emotion, with the highs and the lows, having proper punctuation end? If you're ending in a statement, you end in a statement. If you end in a question, you end in a question. Know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? How many times have you heard someone speaking and they say, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Well, I did, but now I'm distracted by your repetition of what am I saying? You know what I'm saying? Words have enormous power. Think about that. They can build up or they can tear down. We talked about it having the right kind of thoughts. Positive thoughts equal positive actions. Speaking is an action. So if you have positivity in your mind and in your heart, your language is going to be that way. If you're out there cursing up a storm, chances are what's on your heart and what's on your mind isn't something that's going to be very positive. So words can build up, words can tear down. Words of encouragement, inspiration, gratitude, politeness, those are all positive in nature. When was the last time you encouraged somebody? When was the last time you used words to inspire somebody or to give thanks and gratitude or just be polite? Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Thank you. Simple things. And the simple things at the time might not seem anything special or anything big, but you start building all these special things, these little ones. The next thing you know, you have a foundation that you have built based on positivity and positive actions, positive thoughts, positive words spoken. You know, last week we talked about the success mindset and how the simple thoughts can lead to actions, right? Our simple thought leads to an action. A simple word can be transformative and build somebody up. A simple word can change somebody so dramatically. You can do it. Get up and go. Don't quit. I've got your back. I think you're doing great. Just the simplest things can change somebody. So just like our thoughts need to be positive, words need to be positive as well. Because if we're not using positive words, chances are we're going to be distracted. Chances are we're going to be focusing on other things. Chances are we might not have that success. Remember, what you think is what you are. For example, if you think you can do something, chances are you're going to be able to do it. If you think you're not going to be able to do something, chances are you're not going to be able to do it. Winners want the ball. And we have to convey that with the words that we use. Give me the ball. If you're hemming and hawing, stammering, questioning yourself, unsure, trying to talk yourself out of something. How many times have you tried to talk yourself out of something? Maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I changed my mind. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Instead of, wow, I can do this. I'm going to go after it. I'm going to try it. I have nothing to lose. I did it this way last time. I'm going to try it this way for better success this time. It doesn't matter. As long as you are speaking the right kind of language, you can be successful. Another thing that successful people do is they speak words that are positive, like we're talking about. Because again, it goes back to positive thinking, correct thinking. Remember, we go back to our episode last time, 207. Thoughts are constructive. Positive people thinking positive thoughts, they're constructive thoughts. It's not just happy-go-lucky, high of the 60s, everything peace, love, joy. No, it's constructive thoughts. We're focusing on improvement. We're having that growth mindset. So we're taking the information, we're analyzing it, we're testing it, maybe researching it, and then either accepting it or rejecting it. And in that process of all that, we're educating ourselves so that we can then communicate or talk about it. You ever listen to somebody and they try to talk about something they don't know nothing about? It's all over social media. But you talk to somebody and they're like, yeah. Remember that time when Kamala Harris was talking about her bracket? And she was talking about how like the women's basketball tournament, they didn't have brackets until recently. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? Brackets have been around for a long time in women's basketball. Stuff like that. If people are faking it and you are knowledgeable on it, A, you can call them out, but then B, you can talk about it. If you have to debate somebody, if you have to have a competing proposal, if you have to defend yourself, if you have to do whatever it is you have to do to elevate yourself, your business, your career, talk yourself into promotion, if you can convey the words, but you have to have the knowledge and the understanding of the material, whatever it is, in order to present it. So you can present information in a fashion that you think is worthy of, oh, this was a good thing, but you actually know the knowledge of it. You actually have an understanding of the material. And so if you are having a constructive thought process, taking the information, analyzing it, testing it, researching it, accepting, rejecting it, we can have constructive language. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have used that type of language in my presentation. Oh, that didn't go over so well. That's kind of like comedians, right? Comedians, they will tell jokes. If the jokes don't go over very well, do they keep saying the same joke over and over? No, they go back and they will rework the joke, maybe try to fix the language, fix the wording, fix the timing. That's why I love listening to comedians, because especially good ones, because they've got timing, they've got language, they've got vocabulary. They've got all this stuff going on that's engaging. Now, sure, granted, the 2-drink minimum in the bar at the comedy club, that's helpful. But again, a lot of times what they're saying to you is relative to life. We can relate to it. but it's also all the other stuff. They've worked at crafting their words, their language to be successful. And when you listen to comedians, even the not funny ones, in my opinion, you can still kind of get an idea of how they put words together, how they put language together to try to convey it. They don't just get up on stage and, some of them do. I know what they profanity laden tirade of whatever. Is that really funny? Well, maybe to you it is, but it's easy. It's easy comedy to go swearing and having that type of set. But if you can put something together and make it funny and it's an everyday thing, how many times have you heard a comedian talk about going to Starbucks and how funny that is? Not relatable to me because I don't do Starbucks, but I can see what's funny to people that go. Or maybe if you have kids, or maybe if you're going to school, or maybe if you're dating somebody, whatever it is, it's relatable material, and the language they use makes it funny because they're connecting with you. And that's important. So you can do that with our language. Like the comedians rework jokes. They don't just throw them out, they rework them to make them better. And then if they still don't work, then they might toss them out, but it's constructive language. And again, you're not holding a grudge, negative talk. You're thinking your big thoughts equal big talk. Can you walk the walk? If you can talk the talk, well, you want to be able to walk the walk. So yeah, let's talk the talk to walk the walk. Have that wow factor, the wow factor in explaining your dreams, your goals, your ambitions in life, thinking outside the box, having those unique thoughts and conveying them to people. If you're thinking outside the box, not a whole lot of people are going to understand perhaps what you're trying to say. Could you imagine back in the day, someone like Alexander Graham Bell trying to explain to you the the telephone, or somebody trying to explain the cell phone to you? And what would you do maybe before cell phones came around? And as people were starting to talk about cell phones, was there a lot of reference to maybe Star Trek and those communication devices that they had? Try to compare something so that you would understand what it is, right? And so again, you're thinking outside the box. You're thinking unique thoughts. How are you going to explain this to somebody to get them to understand, to buy into your proposal so that they can fund your project, or so that they can allow you to, maybe you get a grant because you're in academia. You got to be able to do that. So if successful people think this way, then we need to speak successfully because our words then mirror our thoughts. There's a lot of people I know that have had great thoughts. They've had great ideas, but they weren't able to articulate them. And so they never were able to achieve them. You have to be able to articulate it. So if successful people are thinking positive, then they also speak positive, using positive words that build up. I know there's this thing out there. I don't know if it's new age or what it is, but it's, speaking positive makes it happen or something like that. It's like wishing it to come true. That's not what I'm talking about, by the way. It's not talking about I'm just going to wish it to come true. Manifest, I guess, is the key word. Manifestation, manifesting something. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about practical application to go after something and be successful, and not just speak it to the cosmos and the cosmos is going to make it happen. That's not what I'm talking about, by the way. I'm talking about practical application to reach success. Have you ever listened to people that speak positive? They're fun to be around. They're creative. They're uplifting. They're joyous. Joy seems to be a key word these days. Negative people, they're dark and gloomy, desolate, uninspiring, maybe always complaining. You want to be around those people? Probably not. In fact, it's a known fact that people do not want to be around negative people. You can go look it up if you want to, but the stats are there. Positive talk equals positive experiences. Negative talk equals negative experiences. Misery loves company. How many times do you listen to something? Maybe it's music. I don't know. For some reason, grunge music a lot of times reminds me of some depressive state. Maybe it was because of some of the stuff that went down in the 90s. I don't know. But for some reason, I just associate some grunge with some gloominess. Maybe it's the way they dressed and never washed their hair and went to Goodwill to get their sweaters and stuff. But to me. So I never got into it too much because of that. You want to be positive because positivity and optimism are a great combination. Positivity and optimism are a great combination. So speak accordingly. Ever been around somebody that always speaks in optimistic tones and terms? They never let the negative seep in. And maybe some people think they're out of touch with reality, or they don't understand the realization of what's going on when things might be going bad. But sometimes that's okay, because maybe in the back of their mind, they realize it, but they're trying to keep a positive tone so that the rest of us, the rest of you, don't start thinking negative and go down with the ship. Ever think about when a person receives positive words? Have you ever been the recipient of someone giving you positive encouragement? Maybe some sort of praise or congratulations? Makes you feel good, doesn't it? It makes you get inspired, lifted up, accomplished. How many of you have really been motivated by somebody that's yelled at you? In the radio business, things always went wrong for one reason or another. And then the boss would come in and start yelling at you. It's like, it's not like I ever did this on purpose or this was intentional to sabotage the radio station or the show. Just didn't work out. But I was never motivated when people come in and yell. I was never motivated to do better. In fact, a lot of times it made me want to leave. Why do I work for this guy? And then they come around with their 3% raise, make us think that we're doing good and we're supposed to be joyous about it. But that's negative thoughts. So let's go back to the positive. So don't pull people down just like that. A lot of people in radio might hear me talk about that experience of being talked about negative, and oh yeah, it hits home. A lot of people lost their jobs, especially recently in radio. But we can't let that keep us down. We got to keep going. So we don't want to put people down because it's not going to be beneficial for that person. Not too long ago, we just did an episode on Aubrey Wyatt. She was the young middle schooler down in Mississippi that was bullied to the point of where she took her own life. Words are powerful. Words can influence people. And if it's always negative and you're picking on somebody, you're bullying somebody, it could lead to them taking their own lives. So you want to imagine if they uplifted her, or maybe they just left her alone. But if you do uplifting words, what if other people came in and said, you know what, I know these people are bullying you, but don't listen to them. They're not true. I'm going to fill your life with some positivity, some words of affirmation. Might have made a difference. I'm not going to judge, but it makes a big difference, obviously. And so successful people speak positive words. I know there's a bunch of success gurus out there, people that are like trying to tell you how to do things, make a lot of money. I know like Tony Robbins is one, maybe Joel Osteen is one. But when you listen to them, do they ever speak negative? Are they ever speaking down? Are they ever conveying negative messages to you? Or is it always positive, always uplifting? Now, you may or may not agree with their profession or what they do and how they go about it, but they're never saying anything negative. They're always positive, 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 positive. Even when things seem negative, it's positive, positive, positive. So there you have it. There is a stereotype that goes around of coaches yelling at players. Bobby Knight, perhaps the poster boy for yelling at players and chucking chairs and other things that he did. But being football season, many football coaches, we see them yelling and screaming on the sideline at players. There was a football coach, John Gagliardi. He was a longtime football coach at St. John's College in Minnesota. He coached for 64 years, won 489 games, plus all the accolades that come with it. His philosophy was never to yell at people, never to yell at his players. And the reason was because he never liked it when people yelled at him. That's reasonable. He didn't like it when people yelled at him, so why is he going to yell at his players? And he was a very successful. Now, other coaches have adopted this method. I think it was like Chris Peterson. Remember the guy that was at Boise State, then went to Washington. I think he's on TV now. He's an example. His philosophy was the same way. He doesn't yell at people, nor did he allow for his assistant coaches to yell at people. It's not very productive. And so when you're sitting there and you're thinking about being positive and you're thinking about success and you're thinking about how do I get there? We start with the mind, like we talked about last time. Mindset is everything, positive thoughts. And then we got to speak and use the language and have positive words that we use. So the mind leads to speaking. And now we're starting to put this whole thing together. And then we're reminded that no matter what we do, we have to go after it.
If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, work day and night for it, give up your time and your peace and your sleep for it. If only desire of it makes you quite mad enough never to tire of it, makes you hold all other things tawdry and cheap for it. If life seems all empty and useless without it, and all that you scheme and you dream is about it, if gladly you'll sweat for it, fret for it, plan for it, lose all your terror of God or man for it, if you'll simply go after that thing that you want with all your capacity, strength, and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, stern pertinacity. If neither cold poverty, famished and gaunt, nor sickness nor pain of body and brain can turn you away from the things that you want, if dogged and grim you besiege and beset it, you'll get it.
You just have to go after it. How do you go after it? Well, with our thoughts, with our actions including what we do with our hands, what we do with our language. Got to go after it. So what we're talking about is successful people using the right kind of language, how we speak. Do we speak like a champion? Last time in episode 207, we talked about thinking like a champion. Successful people think. Now we're talking about speaking like a champion, and we're talking about using the right kind of language, words that are positive, how we speak, articulation, vocabulary, words we use. And you can always get better in your vocabulary and always get better in the words you use by increasing your vocabulary, reading more, less social media, more time learning about things. Because again, and I love the idea of the constructive thought, because it's like when you're a constructive thinker, constructive doer, constructive talker, whatever it is, you're taking the information, thinking about it, maybe testing it, researching it, analyzing it, whatever it is, and then either accepting it or rejecting it. But through that process, you're learning about it. And as you're learning about it, now you're informing yourself so that if you have to speak on it, you can. You might not be the ultimate authoritarian on a subject, but you have knowledge to speak on. And you can call out the BS over here and maybe reinforce the truth over here, because successful people speak truth in love, which is a little different than what a lot of people in this world do. You're speaking truth in love. So honesty is a valuable asset for successful people. I know that's a little backwards thinking because there's a lot of deceitful business practices out there that people will do and they make a lot of money. But again, we're talking about successful, championship-minded people and successful people that speak truth in love. Honesty is a valuable asset for these successful people. Truthfulness propels you on the journey of life towards success. Remember, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember the lies and you don't have to cover up the lies. So honesty, truthfulness go hand in hand. So when people speak truth in love, they're speaking truth with grace, even if truth is uncomfortable. Now, again, the only exception, perhaps, that you might want to rethink about speaking truth is if you have a significant other that comes and asks you, hey, do these jeans make me look fat? You should probably think what you say because you probably want to live. Outside of that, you probably want to tell the truth. That might be the only exception. Do these jeans make me look fat? Lie. Outside of that, yeah, you want to tell the truth. Tell the truth in love. What does that mean? Well, you want to be able to some people call it like constructive criticism and stuff like that. And that's true too. But it's the manner in which you do it. It's the manner in which you tell the truth in love and kindness. And sometimes the truth will hurt. You have to have serious conversations with people. Hey, how did that presentation go? Well, you know what? It didn't really go so well, but here's some things that we can do to fix it. Here's some positive that came from it. Maybe here's some ideas that we can do to fix it and make it better. Or my performance. How was it? Maybe you're a musical, an artist, or whatever you do. It's speaking truth in love. It's minimizing the negative, but you have to give it to them. That just wasn't what we were expecting from you. But you know what? These are some areas that we think are really good. These are the areas that we think you can work on. Let's work on those, maybe improve a little bit on these, work some things around, and then we can get it done. In education, it's gotten away from because we're doing away with grades. A lot of school districts, grades. Remember in Virginia, I think it was Loudoun County, they were withholding AP honors from students because they didn't want the dumb kids to feel so bad. And now we're doing away with grades and we're doing away with like all the stuff to try to balance out and make it even. But that's only hurting people because when they get out in the real world and they have to make it, they have to pay the bills. You're not an illegal alien that's going to get $25,000 to buy a home or $150,000 to buy a home. If you're in California, you got to work for it. What are you going to do? You're going to settle for that minimum wage job, or you're going to go after something a little bit more. And if you're not being pushed now in school, when are you going to be pushed? Probably never. We get that lazy couch mentality. And so we have to tell someone, hey, you know what? You're not living up to expectations. You're not reaching your potential. You're not doing what you should be doing. However, let's take these steps perhaps to get you there. You're not bringing out your inner greatness, but together we can go do it. You're not raising the standard in your life because I think you've got more in you than you do. Here's what we can do to fix that. And so, yes, you're going to speak truth in love, truth in kindness, even when truth hurts, because people can improve and become more successful and they can grow as a person if they know the truth. And that truth is delivered in grace and compassion. Because again, it's the manner in which you tell the truth. Hey, that sucked, dude. Well, the person probably not going to take it very well. Maybe wants to push back because his feelings are hurt. Her feelings are hurt. So it's the man would do. You know what? Wasn't quite as expected. However, a little more practice, maybe a little bit more work. It'll be better. Let's try that. The other thing you do have to be careful, though, is motives. Motives are everything. Okay. Why are you dropping truth bombs on people? Is it a real, legitimate care, concern reason? Or are you just trying to do that to be malicious? Are you trying to be hurtful, disguised in truth? Because there's a lot of people out there that will try to give you truth, but they're really being hurtful. And so, again, speaking truth in love. What's your motivation? Why are you telling them that? Because you genuinely care or because You want to knock them down. Maybe you're jealous. Maybe you're envious. Maybe you want that position, whatever it is. And again, now your thoughts are not in the right place. Your thoughts are negative. Thoughts aren't pure, not unique. You're not outside the box. And now your actions are that way, because it's pretty predictable that people will say things to knock you down because of jealousy, envy, and so on. So do it with truth. Speak that truth with grace, love, compassion. Deliver it in a manner that is genuine and real, but has soft edges. One of the most important things when it comes to speaking and successful people, having that championship mindset, that championship vocabulary, speaking ability, is listening is more important than speaking. This is something that the whole world needs more of. I mean, this is social media personified. People run straight to social media to sit there and to spout off whatever it is they want to, and they have no knowledge of anything, and they're just spouting stuff off. We need to listen more, speak less. Listening is more important than speaking. Listening is one of the most important things we can do to be successful. Make it a point to listen, not just hearing. There's a difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is, yeah, words are coming in, but I'm kind of distracted. And no, I can't really repeat back to you what you said, except for that, you want to raise. Instead of like, oh, so really you were the one that was behind the success that we had over this ad campaign that brought our company in millions of dollars, and you've done this now on a few different occasions. Yeah, let's seriously think about that raise talk. So we need to listen. Listen is being attentive and paying attention, focused in on what we're hearing. Hearing is just casual acknowledgement of what is being said. And so we need to pay attention, be attentive when someone's talking to us. There was a student I had. He was an adult student, and he had cerebral palsy. He was nonverbal. He couldn't communicate. And I had him in class for a couple of years, a couple of different classes in radio broadcasting program that I taught at community college. And he didn't have a talk or anything like that, so we'd have to write stuff down, whether it was a question or whatever. And so because I have practiced over the years through radio and podcasting and interviewing people and stuff, the art of listening, I'm not perfection. I'm not the it person when it comes to listening, but I have developed skills in listening. I was able to tune in a lot into what he was saying without him even having to write things down. He might have a question, he might have a thought on something, whatever it was. And after 2 years of having him in the program and being around him on a kind of regular basis, I was able to kind of get an understanding of what he was saying, the questions he might have had, a lot of times without him even having to write anything down. And people were like, how can you do that? It was because I was in tune to what he was not saying verbally, but with other communication, body language, facial expressions. I would watch what he's doing and things that he was interested in class. And then when we're in workshops or in other places, I could know that, oh, this is something that's sparking his interest because I could see his face light up. Now with him, it took a little bit extra attention. It took a little bit extra acknowledgement of and being attentive to who he was and the things that he was about because he couldn't speak back. But yeah, a lot of times you can know what somebody's thinking, feeling just by looking at them. Students will come into the classroom and I can tell whether they're having a good day or not because I know what they're like when they're feeling good and I know what they look like when they're not doing so well. And so all it takes is just a little bit of paying attention to the person, body language, facial expressions, demeanor. And you can see and get an idea of how they're doing. And then their language will usually back up their expressions, their body language, positive or negative. So if you're in tune to people, you can get a whole lot out of people just by listening, just by observing, just by watching. And people will tell you more if you just listen They will tell you more than probably they would want to without you butting in all the time and without you making it about you. Just listen and the information will come flowing. So focus on the person. That's the other thing. You see these people on TV and they've got their script of questions they want to ask because they have an agenda. If you script questions and you want to make sure you get through all of them, now you just have an agenda. That's all it is. You're not there to listen to what they have to say. You're there to reach an agenda, whatever it might be. Listening is the most important part of the conversation process. You might ask a question, you might listen back, and then maybe that spawns other questions that are more prevalent than what you have written down. But listening, the most important part of conversation and the conversation process. So you also want to show interest in what is being said, value what the other person is saying. This might include putting your phone away. I'm guilty of this a lot because I multitask. I can function multitasking because when you produce radio shows for years, you become pretty good at multitasking, answering phones, trying to get a guest on, dealing with management, dealing with the host, dealing with the board operator. I mean, salespeople coming in, promotions people wanting this on the air, having to do this, track that. You become pretty good at multitasking. And so for me, when I'm on the phone and someone's talking to me, I need to learn that I need to put this down and focus on what they're saying because I can easily multitask. But when I look at them, maybe they're thinking that I'm not as interested. So it's not about my ability to multitask, it's about my ability to make sure that they feel valued in the conversation that they're having to me. So that's something that I always have to keep kind of working on. So focus on the person. Put that phone down. Mute the TV. Put it on pause. Have the conversation. Or if it's not a good time, just say, you know what? I'm extremely interested in what you have to say. I truly am. But now is really not a good time. I've got this going on. Let's set a time. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. In the business world, at your job, maybe it's tomorrow. Maybe you have to schedule a meeting. If it's in the home or a social thing, maybe it's, hey, give me 5 minutes, then I'm all yours. 10 minutes just to complete this project. I'm all yours. Whatever it is. But value what they have to say. Don't just dismiss it. Another thing is don't be afraid to ask questions. One reason why people don't ask questions is because they don't want you to know that they don't know nothing. Hey, does anybody have any questions? Love this with students. You have any questions? No questions? We're all good? All right, here we go. Take the test. What? I don't understand this. Well, I just asked if you had any questions. No one had questions, and they all did poorly on a test. But if you don't know, ask. The classroom, for example, I always say the classroom is the best place to make mistakes because the classroom is where you come to learn. And the classroom is where we assume and presume you don't know. We're going to teach you. So make the mistakes, ask the question, gain the knowledge. I'll ask all kinds of questions, but they're the right questions because I want to get information back. So I'll ask all kinds of questions if I have to. Questions allow us to gain knowledge and not just patronize the person. Obviously, if we're in a situation where somebody's communicating to us an issue, we might need to ask questions. So we might ask the questions. If we're in maybe a learning environment, we're asking different types of questions. But ask questions because those questions can lead to learning. Learning leads to growth, the growth mindset, and that is a big part of having a successful persona, a successful person, a successful team is gaining that knowledge, learning, and growing. It's that growth mindset. And so sometimes I'll ask questions just out of curiosity, just because I want to know something, want to learn something, want new knowledge. You're from another country. What's it like there? What's dinner like? What's food like? What's every day like? Sometimes people that come from another country and they sit in my class, I'll ask them all kinds of questions. And then they'll be like, can you stop asking me questions now? Because I just want to know, that thirst for knowledge. Make sure it's the right kind of questions that you're asking. For example, parents, when talking to your kids about school each day, don't just ask them, how was your day? And you get a fine response. Ask them something maybe more specific, like, what did you learn today that you did not already know? Something like that might require a longer response from you. What did you learn today that you did not already know? A successful person that has a constructive mindset is taking in the information, processing it, analyzing it, questioning it, ask questions, researching it, then accepting and rejecting it. So we can do the same thing with our questions. We can learn, we can listen, process the information, then respond. We don't need to be quick-tongued. Remember, listening, asking questions. Two pivotal parts of the conversation process that people have kind of forgotten about. I think there was a slogan by NBC TV at one time. That slogan said, "The more you know." So yeah, the more you know. How do you know? Well, you can do some research, but you can also ask questions. And you don't need to be afraid to ask those questions. The other thing too, which I think is something that's important that people need to reconsider, is profanity. Profanity is never necessary. Granted, I will put the exception, because there's always an exception to every rule, although I might be criticized for this in some circles, but sometimes a word of profanity can be funny in comedic situations. However, with that being said, there never really is a need for profanity. It has so many negative effects. First of all, it limits your impression by other people. It's just a negative thing. Most people use profanity to express a negative emotion, anger, hate, jealousy. Not too often will promote something positive. And if it does, maybe it kind of dulls or shines that positivity. It shows limited vocabulary. Oftentimes it doesn't make sense in the situation, but people still throw it down. Profanity in public, I think anyways, shows a lack of respect to other people. It lacks courtesy for others. People might think it's okay to use profanity, but think of all the professional settings where it just doesn't work. I mean, teaching, you can't swear at students in the classroom. You can't swear at parent-teacher conferences. Parents might be swearing at you, but you can't swear because a kid got a bad grade or whatever, or kid's not paying attention, troublemaker, bad behavior. You want to launch some F-bombs on that guy or girl. Banking. How about cursing someone out because they have bad credit, or cursing someone out because they filled out the application wrong, or whatever reason? What about the medical field? I'm pretty sure I would probably have several doctors yell profanity at me for not listening to them over the course of time when it comes to certain things in the medical profession, because I just haven't listened to them. But what about using profanity when you're diagnosing somebody? That's not going to happen. Or customer service. You get a little bit more of it in customer service, but even then, it's not going to fly very well if the customer service person was cursing at you. When it comes down to it, swearing is negative. They are words that will tear down and destroy. Again, positive words will build up and bring life to the conversation. Profanity kills and destroys. It's two opposite things. Now, people might agree. People are going to disagree with me on the profanity thing, and that's fine. But it is, again, we're thinking like a successful person. We're thinking like a champion. There's a lot of good teams and good people out there that have finished second. Good for you. But to become a champion, you have to finish first. And this might be one way that sets you above from the second place finish and puts you atop the podium because of the language you use. Using words wisely will carry you in life and contribute to the success in your life. There is no doubt about it. I have no doubts that the words you use, the language you use, how you use it, the communication style, and all that, I have no doubt that it will lead to further success if you elevate it instead of just doing what the world says to do. Elevate your communication, because successful people use the right kind of language. And if you're using the right kind of language, along with the right mindset, the right thought process, you will be more successful. And when things in life do get tough, just keep going.
When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill. When the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but you have to sigh. When care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Life is queer, with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns. And many a failure turns about, when he might have won had he stuck it out. Don't give up, though the pace seems slow. You may succeed with another blow. Often the goal is nearer than it seems to a faint and faltering man. Often the struggler has given up when he might have captured the victor's cup. And he learned too late, when the night slipped down, how close he was to the golden crown. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt. And you never can tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems afar. So stick to the fight when you're hardest hit. It's when things seem worst that you mustn't quit.
Yeah, don't quit. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. You might be one step away from success. And the only time you fail is when you quit. Because again, you might do something 99 times, but that 100th time, you're successful. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Now, it might take you going back to the drawing board, rethinking some things. So if we're talking about language and you had a presentation or you had a speech and didn't go so well, go back and revamp it. Try again. Do it over. Keep going. Don't quit. So as we continue on this journey of what does it take to be a successful person or to become like a champion, it's the thought process and our language are two areas that can help us be successful. And again, when you're talking about our thought process, a successful person will think the right kind of thoughts because thoughts lead to actions. So we have to have the right thoughts in order to have the right actions. Thoughts lead to actions, so have the right kind of thoughts. Successful people will think positive thoughts because we know mindset is everything. If our mind is set in the right way, we'll be successful. If it's not, filled with doubt and second guessing, that leads to failure. Mindset is everything. Think positive thoughts. I can do this. Think big. Have that wow factor. Something that gets you pumped up and motivated. Have those outside the box, unique thoughts. Everyone else is thinking one way. Maybe you think a different way. Think pure thoughts. Don't dwell on the wrongs that others have done to you. That's jealousy, vengeance, anger, hate, stuff like that. Address it. Forget it. Forgiveness is key. Never hold that grudge. So if that's the way we're thinking, and that's the right kind of thinking for a successful person, a person that wants to be a champion, then the next thing we have is our language. So successful people use the right kind of language, using the right kinds of words, because people will judge us by the words we use. Successful people will speak words that are positive. We'll think words that are constructive. What do I mean by that? So we're going to focus on improving our language, improving our vocabulary, improving the way we do presentations or the way we greet people, always improving because we have that growth mindset, that constructive mindset. So we're going to speak positive. Successful people will speak truth in love. You're going to tell the truth. You're going to have honesty in communication. Truthfulness propels you on the journey of life towards success. So when you have to, even when it's uncomfortable, speak truth, but you can do it in a loving, gracious way. Maybe soften the blow, but don't soften the message. We also have to remember that listening is more important than speaking, because listening is one of the most important things we can do to become a successful person. Listen to others, take in that information. Listening is also the most important part of the conversation process. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That's how you gain knowledge. You gain knowledge by asking questions. You learn. Growth mindset. You're growing. So don't be afraid to ask questions. And finally, in my opinion, profanity is never necessary, because profanity, again, is focusing on the negative. Well, positive words will build up and bring things to life. Profanity kills and destroys, in my opinion. So using words wisely will carry you far in life and contribute to the success that you have in life. And so there you have it. This is Two Steps Ahead Podcast. I'm Son Edom. You can check out our website, radiowarp.com. That's radio, W-A-R-P, radiowarp.com. There's a lot of things on there for you to navigate through, but for the show purpose, you can click on the Two Steps Ahead Podcast show logo, and our show page pops up. It has a lot of videos of all of our past shows that you can scroll through. You can click on that orange bar that runs across the middle of the page. It takes you to our SoundCloud page, which is our audio version of the page. And you can find all of our audio shows. You can download them and take them with you on the go. So they're both there in visual and audio form. You can also find us on Rumble and YouTube. You can listen to podcasts anywhere you listen to them. For example, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Edify, iHeartMedia, and so on. You can just do an internet search of TWO, Two Steps Ahead Podcast. We pop up. Also, hey Siri, hey Google, hey Alexa, play TWO, Two Steps Ahead Podcast, and our show pops up. So we're pretty easy to find, but radiowarp.com, radio, W-A-R-P, radiowarp.com is the best place to find us for the show, plus other things that I got going on in the world of entertainment. So check it out. We appreciate that. Hey, you can also email the show, twostepsaheadpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's TWO, twostepsaheadpodcast@gmail.com. Go ahead and reach out. Let me know what you think. If you are someone that's in need of help, you don't know what to do, don't know where to turn, you think you have nobody, whatever it is, reach out. If I can't help you, I will find somebody that can. So you don't have to go this alone. Don't think like you're the only one out there. Reach out. You can also find me on social media, Instagram, Facebook. So you can message me there on those as well. It's just at Two Steps Ahead Podcast. And you can find me there. Also on TikTok too. We've had a new TikTok page. So we're easy to find. So just go ahead and reach out, and don't go it alone. And like I said, if I can't help you, then I will find somebody that can help you. But again, be successful. Raise the standard in your life so you bring out your inner greatness, so you can take your passion and make it happen. And then maybe you motivate and inspire others around you for them to do the same thing. They repeat the process, they inspire others, and now your community, your neighborhood, your business, your school, whatever you're doing, everybody's now raising the standard and things are getting better. It's always something to think about. Stay positive, my friends, because you can do it. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. Two Steps Ahead Podcast, encouraging you to take your passion, make it happen, let yourself be great. I'm Son Edom. Hey, thanks for listening. Do tell a friend. And until next time, God bless.